Welcome to part 18 of the 2018 NFL Draft in Review. Today we will be looking at the 2018 Dallas Cowboys draft class, which is one that I pretty much aced. I had a very good opinion of much of this class. Much of that has turned out to be pretty much 100% correct, aside from a couple small underachievers here and there. And this class will begin with the 19th selection, linebacker Leighton Vander Esch. And he's never quite been as good as he was as a rookie, as we can see with the pretty well absurd stat line from his rookie season. 140 tackles, 7 passes deflected, 2 interceptions. That was on 16 games, 11 starts. He's never started a full season since then, though he has played a full season, 2021, but we see that quite possibly some of the injuries have kind of taken their toll, but he is seemingly improving again, so he should most likely, I would say, come into that 100 tackle bracket again before too long here. Now, I'm not entirely sure if the Cowboys are going to be keeping Vander Esch. I'll have to see if he signed any sort of extensions here. Yeah, they got a 1-year contract on him, so as far as I'm aware, Vander Esch should be a free agent in this, ongoing free agency period. So, overall, I would say that he does pretty well for them, and now let's go back. I elected to go for 2021 because, surprisingly, there really isn't a whole bunch of decent, I would say, 2022 videos for this guy, so here we go. That'll be him in the middle of the field right there. Good job following the play, getting the ball carrier. Same play from the other side there. Could hustle along a little more there, I'd say, but did a pretty good job. Especially a good job there getting the blocker out of the way and then getting the ball carrier. Just to save it a touchdown, pretty much. About the same play as the first one. The ball carrier almost gets free, but he doesn't get him by the ankle. He's just herding him back, just leaving that one nowhere to go. Not quite a good wrap up there, but the ball carrier went down, so any tackle's a tackle as it goes. So, whether or not this guy has effectively established a spot for himself in Dallas is, I would say, probably going to come down to what the Cowboys want to do in terms of their cap space this year, because I don't think a guy like this is going to just keep playing on 1-year cheap deals. So, I think, considering the Cowboys' interesting state, the fact they're going to have some younger players to start really giving the bag in the next 2 to 3 years, I would say that Vander Esch is probably going to be allowed to walk. I won't say with absolute certainty, because the Cowboys are one of those teams that the only thing you can really guarantee with the Cowboys is that odds are you're not going to have them pegged on what they're going to be doing for long, because Jerry Jones changes what he wants to be doing on a dime. There's just... Dallas should not be in the Super Bowl drought they're in. So, next up we have the 50th selection, Connor Williams. I did look for some highlight stuff for this guy, but generally speaking, didn't find a whole lot that's actually worth anything. But the general points of note I will make is that this guy managed to frustrate Aaron Donald in a practice. That takes some doing. One of the best pass rushers in the league, and you're able to frustrate the guy. He's only not started 6 games out of 74, and he's now playing for the Dolphins. He was shipped off to them this past season. And, well, like I said, this is a good starting piece for an offensive line to have. It probably doesn't really help the Dolphins' running game too much because they don't really have somebody to take advantage of good blocking, but it should help the quarterbacks a little bit at the very least. But I would say that Miami is in a position where they could stand to go and get themselves a quarterback who's not going to get injured even with decent blocking, as both Tua and Teddy Bridgewater got hurt this past year. And they just went out and signed a new backup who is pretty much only not a starter because of his inability to stay healthy. So we'll see what goes on with that, but good piece for the Dolphins to have. Next, we have wide receiver Michael Gallup, and Gallup has been, in a word, disappointing. He really should be better than this, and I'm aware there is an injury to contend with in this, but these are not really good numbers. It took him over 100 targets to get 1,000 yards in 2019. It does look bad. You've got to be catching more of what comes your way than this. His career high catch rate is 58.4%. Every other year it's been below 57%. 2 of those seasons it's been under 53. As a rookie, he wasn't even catching 50% of it. Now, this doesn't list drops, so I can't exactly say how many of these that he is just straight up dropping, and how many of these that Dak Prescott is just straight up fucking missing. But it's absurd to me that this is continuing to go on. I don't really think that he'll be back with the Cowboys, because I don't think they extended him. Let me see. Oh yeah, they actually did extend him. They're gonna regret that to $60 million if they don't, if he doesn't improve soon. So, I'm not saying he's a bad player. Just he really needs to work on some
California, but now you're gonna have to
rush. Has it complete. Welcome back, Michael Gallup, for a first down. Rush looking, throwing, end zone. It's caught by Gallup. Touchdown, Dallas.
This is just scramble drill. He sees Cooper Rush break the pocket, and he's just going to work with his quarterback along the back end of the end zone, runs away from Cole Holcomb, the linebacker. Really impressive. He joined his teammates on the bench.
All right, here's Cooper Rush. Pressure up the middle. Throwing near side has Gallup for a completion for a first down. Cowboys have the lead, but their offense hasn't done much. It's only their second first down today. 3rd and 15. It's a 4-man rush. Cooper Rush going deep for Gallup. He makes the catch as he in.
See, he can make plays. It's just, what is going on with the catches versus targets ratio here,
They don't have to go fast. They'd love Sean McVay.
You've got to find ways to do that more
Bears
often.
bring 4. Prescott throws on the low slant. It is caught by Michael Gallup, please. Prescott zips one for Gallup. Jackson comes over for the hit near the...
Like I say, he's a pretty good second option for the Cowboys to have, but this definitely needs to improve. You cannot be playing 14 games for $60 million and only get 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. You can't be doing that. You have got to improve. especially for this Cowboys team to have any real shot at a Super Bowl, because the run game's kind of going into flux. Tony Pollard is slowly supplanting Ezekiel Elliott. You've had an injury or two to Dak Prescott over the years. And now you're faced with the fact that Amari Cooper's gone. CD Lamb is not quite blowing anyone away, I'd say. And then you've got this, and the defense can only do so much if the offense can't get shit together. And there were a lot of times I saw the Cowboys this past season where it looked like the offense was stuck in the mud. Sometimes they were able to change that by the end of the game, but a lot of times it was just stuck in the mud against teams that they should not have been struggling with. So let's go along back here to defensive end Dorrance Armstrong Jr., and this is a player that I was pretty much locked in on. I figured that from the start he was not going to be very important to this team, and we see those first 2 years where Dallas has more options at defensive end that he really doesn't do anything. It actually kind of goes on into his third season too. Then these last 2 years he's finally starting to emerge as some of those guys get older or leave Dallas. Last year he had 8.5 sacks, despite only starting 5 games. So he's working his way up, I would say, towards being an almost permanent starter. And we'll see what he does when he gets there, because so far he's improving steadily.
Was swamped back at the 18-yard line by Dorrance Armstrong. In trouble.
Good power move and spin through to get Burrow.
Down for the 4th time. From 47, and this
block kick.
is blocked by Dorrance Armstrong. Another look. Snap good, hold good, blocking not. Armstrong got both hands. Jones steps up, and down he goes. In the arms of Dorrance Armstrong.
Here early in the season.
3rd and 1. Fake. Pressure comes. Stafford is buried. Ball is out. It's picked up by Dallas. Rumbling for the end zone is Lawrence. He's going to get there for the touchdown.
I will say this guy could stand to get a little higher quality on the clips he uses, but still.
Back in the second.
Good return on that one.
This offensive line, 5 different combinations, breaking down early. You see the ball come out. DeMarcus Lawrence, the veteran, picking it up. Not to...
Riley Dixon to punt it away.
Block punt.
It's just sitting there, and it's picked up. Armstrong. Dorrance Armstrong had the strip sack to start. Now he's got a block punt and the recovery.
Well, like I said, you can see how he's improved. He's becoming more important to this Cowboys defense. So that is good for them to have, because, well, you're now in a division that is no longer entirely yours. You've got to compete with the Philadelphia Eagles now. So for the Cowboys to have a player that's been patient enough to wait his turn, that could be a real blessing. So he might become a starter this year, I would say. There's a reasonable chance of it. And if he's actually starting the majority of games, I see no reason to believe that sack number might cross 10 this next season. So next up we have tight end Dalton Schultz, and I wasn't super high on this pick. I figured he'd be Jason Witten's replacement, and he has, but he kind of gives me slightly better Dallas Goedert vibes in that he just seems to do more, but simultaneously doesn't seem to do as much as he could. And part of that comes down to scheme. The Cowboys do not very heavily feature this guy, which makes sense. They've had some pretty good receivers in the build in the last couple of years, and they have a pretty good run game to go along with it, but I would say that they could stand to improve their usage of this guy, because when you have a tight end like this, you should use him. you have a free option to spread a defense out more, make it easier for your receivers, make it harder for them to judge when the run game is coming versus when this guy's going to get the ball, which in turn makes it easier to run, which in turn makes it easier to use play action, which makes it easier to get to those receivers. It just makes playing offense easier. And Dallas just doesn't seem to want to realize this, and as I said, comes into Michael Gallup's struggles too. This is why the Cowboys just seem to spin their wheels in the mud against defenses they should probably be torching. So, we'll now come over here, take a little look at Dalton Schultz.
Left tackle close, first pass by Prescott, complete to Dalton Schultz. 3rd and 11, 5 of the pattern for Dak, and he throws complete to the 30.
Not the wisest decision of the throw there, but got there at least.
Prescott throws, Schultz with the catch to the 42-yard line. 5th grab for Dalton.
And we can kind of see the cause and effect here. That is how you use a tight end like this. You use them for those short routes, sometimes more if they've got the elite capacity to break plays open like guys like Travis Kelce do. But then you look at the scoreboard there, look who's winning by 2 scores. Well, actually, yeah, still 2 scores, but still, look who's winning. You've got to use that more, or your offense just gets bogged down against a defense that it shouldn't be struggling with. Because let's be honest, the Buccaneers' defense this past season was nothing to blow off, but it damn sure wasn't as good as the unit that won that Super Bowl 2 years prior. So,
Schultz
just saying.
Always had good chemistry. On first down, he's looking the other way. Drops it right in there to Dalton Schultz. Awkward tackle.
So, hopefully we can punch it in here.
Appreciate it, thanks.
Thank you.
Back in the game is Schultz.
Their screens and then keep it as the quarterback, but instead
Dump it down to Schultz, who has a 3rd catch, and he's near the 40.
starting to settle in a little bit, it feels like.
2nd and 10. Decide to run a little option play.
Solid block
And
by Schultz on
Elliott's
that
gonna
play.
take it to the 25.
But yeah, it's like the Cowboys know how to use him, but don't want to overuse him, and so they kind of look like they're underusing him, which is hurting a little bit, I would say. Next up, we have 5th round quarterback Mike White. And Mike White, I actually remember somewhat liking back when they picked him. And, well, it hasn't really shown in the NFL why I've liked him as much as I do. There has been, I would say, enough flash to show that maybe with a better team than the Jets, Mike White might do pretty well. And being that he was just signed by the Miami Dolphins in free agency, he's now sitting back up to an often injured quarterback that's got Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill to throw to. If Tua gets hurt again, Mike White might do some damage. So, just keep an eye on this one. He ain't going to beat Tua for a starting job, heads up, but I expect we're probably going to see him about as much as we did with the Jets the past 2 years. So, definitely the potential to do some damage with the Dolphins' weaponry. So, we'll now move over here. Take a little look at what he did last year with the Jets, some of the better parts of it, because there was obviously some bad parts of it, but it was hurt for a good chunk of that, so I won't crucify him for it.
Right to throw the ball here on 3rd and goal. Rolling left, throws.
Flea flicker. a good bit of this is why I say that you really think Aaron Rodgers is going to make this team that much better? Yeah, he's better than Mike White, obviously, but they do not have the offensive weaponry and firepower to make something happen. There's a reason Rodgers is trying to get Devontae Adams to come crawling back. Next up, the Cowboys have linebacker Chris Covington, who is pretty much out of the league now. It still says he's a free agent, so he's still probably trying, but he hasn't really done anything of note. Last was in the league 2020, 3 years ago, so he's pretty well done. Just take the hint, hop into the USFL or XFL, somewhere in there. Next we have wide receiver Cedric Wilson, and Cedric Wilson was a very nice little luxury player for this Cowboys team to have, and the Miami Dolphins don't seem to realize this. As you can basically see the difference between 2021 and 2022. You know, it's 45 catches, 602 yards, 6 touchdowns versus last year 12 catches, 136, no touchdowns. You know, Miami just doesn't seem to realize that they've got a literal extra option. And that's why, ultimately, that even though they are very capable of beating us, I'm not scared of the Dolphins. They're even with the injuries, they should not have just barely limped into the playoffs on the final day. You know, they should have been in probably 3 weeks before that. You know, better roster than what they had before. You've got Skylar Thompson of all quarterbacks doing at least semi-passable job just by sheer weight of receivers that the team has. And you're still 9-8, 10-7 somewhere in there. You still just barely make the playoffs, then lose immediately. And it's for things like this. You're not using Mike Gesicki effectively. You're not using Cedric Wilson effectively. The quarterback injuries, the lack of a real running game. You know, the defense cannot hold against elite units reliably. And it's... You can really easily see why Miami is where they are. I don't agree with anyone putting that team in the Super Bowl picture, but here we go. Cedric Wilson. I selected this video because a little more highlight orientation, less focus on him being completely forgotten this past year in Miami.
Now going a little bit quicker in their offensive rhythm. Pass is caught by Cedric Wilson, and he is in for the touchdown. And Prescott making an accurate throw. Elliott with 3 drops in this game as he dropped.
And this is why I said This is why I just said, you know, Miami is not properly using this guy. Cedric Wilson is basically a luxury weapon. This is a guy that you could literally just use in any capacity you want. And yeah, he's not going to be better than the 2 or 3 guys you've got ahead of him, but it's an option for when those guys are covered.
The throw back of the end zone. Cedric Wilson, touchdown Cowboys.
2nd and 10, blitz coming, Prescott fires, Wilson, spin, touchdown Dallas.
He has 3rd and 8. Fired over the middle. Caught on the run by Cedric Wilson. And Wilson inside the 10, all the way to the end zone.
3rd down and goal. Prescott, end zone, touchdown, Cedric Wilson.
That's Wilson in motion. Dak looking for Cedric's got him, and he will prance into the end zone. Touchdown, Cowboys. 3rd and 5. Dak to throw under pressure. All alone is Cedric Wilson for the touchdown. 2nd touchdown for Wilson tonight.
So, like I said, it just... Miami's not using this guy really the way they should. And they'll probably continue to pay for that as long as they maintain this just spam Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill and hope something happens bullshit. Super Bowl contender, my ass. And the final Cowboys selection from this class was Bo Scarborough, or however you pronounce the last name there. And he was the one that I pretty much said didn't have much of a shot. And I was about correct. He's had a little moment here and there, but it was mostly with Detroit in that 2019-2020 stint that he had with them. And since then, he has pretty much dropped out of the league, went to the Birmingham Stallions, the USFL. They did win the USFL championship, so at least he joined a decent team in one of these lower leagues, but I don't really think that we're going to see this guy come back to the NFL, and so overall, that'll be the class. Now, when this was first drafted, I was pretty well locked in on this. I would say that I overestimated Leighton a bit, underestimated Connor, overestimated Michael, perfectly locked on to Dorrance and Dalton. Might have overrated Mike White, but we'll see once he gets into a game with actual weapons, and Cedric Wilson was the, overall, figured he'd be a good luxury weapon to have, and he was. Cowboys probably should have kept him, should have let someone else walk. So, I ultimately gave this class an A+ back in the day, and I would say that this one is staying right there. This is just a pretty ridiculous class. The first 4 players are all starters, varying level starters, but still starters nonetheless. The first 5 are, actually. The 6th and 8th selections aren't quite starters, but if you give them the proper tools to succeed, they're going to. And you have 2 duds, but, after 6 players that are either starters or pretty good backup or utility players, that's not enough to knock a grade down for me. This one stays at an A+. So that will do it for today's video, and I will see you tomorrow for the 2018 Washington Redskins draft class. And yes, I will be calling them Redskins. But let's face it, it's not like they renamed this team well. So, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, follow me on Twitter, and I will see you tomorrow.